When the first QD-OLED monitor hit the market last year, one key shortcoming highlighted by reviewers, including myself, was its fuzzy text rendering characterized by color fringing, due to QD-OLED's triangular subpixel structure. Fast forward more than 1 year later, I'm pleased to report that the situation has improved significantly with QD-OLED monitors featuring second-generation QD-OLED panels, such as that found on the Asus ROG Swift PG49WCD Super Ultra-Wide monitor. Sure, the red, green and blue subpixels are still arranged in a triangle, but the shape of each subpixel is now more quadrilateral on the new panel, and the pixel fill ratio is higher too, contributing to clearer text reproduction even at 100% scale. Granted, fine text still won't look as pin-sharp as on a true RGB OLED monitor. For example, the Asus ProArt PA32DC equipped with a JOLED panel. But I think that the ROG Swift PG49WCD is perfectly usable as a work and productivity monitor in terms of fine text rendering, allowing you to take advantage of its ample screen real estate. That said, as you can probably tell from the ROG Swift branding, the Asus PG49WCD is primarily pitched as a gaming monitor. It features a 49-inch QD-OLED screen with 32:9 aspect ratio, 5120x1440 resolution equivalent to dual Quad HD displays, as well as 1800R curvature. Maintaining good screen uniformity on such a large, curved monitor is normally very difficult, but the second-gen QD-OLED panel from Samsung Display rose to the challenge like a champ. Bright uniformity on our PG49WCD review unit was outstanding, with no noticeable banding, dirty screen effect or color tinting on full-field gray slides. Dark uniformity also ranked among the cleanest we've seen from any large-sized OLED display, which is a relief after encountering some not-so-pristine panels on this year's QD-OLED TVs. Thanks to the absence of white subpixels, QD-OLED displays such as the Asus PG49WCD don't suffer from near-black overshoot artifacts. Although we noticed heavy temporal dithering just above black on the monitor, which may manifest as video noise in very dark scenes. For playing PC games, realistically most owners will use the DisplayPort 1.4 socket, or the HDMI 2.1 input with full 48 gigabits per second bandwidth and DSC, even though a USB Type-C port with 90-watt power delivery is also provided on the monitor. Using a Leobotna 4K lag tester to measure over HDMI, we found no latency differences at different aspect ratios. Input lag measured 13 milliseconds at 60 frames per second, 5.3 milliseconds at 120 frames per second, and 4 milliseconds at 144 frames per second, which happens to be the maximum frame rate that the Asus PG49WCD is capable of accepting and displaying. While the combination of 144 FPS video signal paired with 144Hz screen refresh rate still resulted in high motion clarity, especially with OLED's near-instantaneous pixel response time, measured to be 0.5 milliseconds on the Asus PG49WCD. The fact is that many other OLED gaming monitors, including the directly competing 49-inch Samsung Odyssey G9 OLED, already offer 240Hz refresh rate, promising even less motion blur as long as your graphics card is powerful enough to run games at 240 FPS. Of course, not everyone will have a cutting-edge PC to run games at 5120x1440 resolution, even at 144Hz, but we think Asus is putting the PG49WCD at a somewhat disadvantageous position by capping it to a lower refresh rate than that implemented on rival models. Otherwise, OLED is a self-emissive display technology, and so the PG49WCD benefited from true blacks and vibrant colors during gameplay, with added immersion from the 49-inch curved display in games that support 32:9 aspect ratio. DCI-P3 color gamut coverage came in at 99.5% in UV terms, whereas Rec 2020 coverage was 86%. The highest we've measured on any OLED monitor so far. Native 10-bit gradation was impressively smooth, judging from this gray ramp pattern in the Display HDR app. Being a monitor, naturally 444 chroma was fully reproduced without any problem. Despite being marketed as G-Sync compatible, the Asus PG49WCD was not recognized as such at this time of review in November 2023, possibly because the monitor was so new that Nvidia's database hadn't been updated yet. Nevertheless, it's quite easy to enable G-Sync in the Nvidia control panel to achieve smooth gameplay without frame drops or tearing artifacts. VRR flicker remained unavoidable in a handful of VRR games, especially on static menus. But the frequency and intensity did not seem as apparent or bothersome as that observed on larger OLED TVs. Color-wise, the Asus PG49WCD was well calibrated out of the box in SDR sRGB mode, and even came complete with a calibration report. In HDR mode, most picture settings were grayed out and unadjustable, so you're basically stuck with Asus factory calibration. 4 HDR picture presets are available, namely Gaming HDR, Cinema HDR, Console HDR, and the tongue-twisting Display HDR 400 True Black. The first 3 HDR presets exceeded the advertised 1000 nits on a 3% window according to our measurements, but unfortunately also tracked brighter than the ST2084 HDR10 PQ standard, leading to an over-brightened HDR presentation. To enjoy HDR content as per the creator's intent, you should use the Display HDR 400 True Black preset, which tracked PQ accurately, though peak brightness in this HDR mode was capped to 480 nits even at small window sizes. Because of the monitor's super ultra-wide form factor, trying to play 16:9 content from an external device in the correct format can be tricky. To give you an example, the Xbox Series X can only output HDR in 4K UHD resolution, but almost every aspect control setting on the Asus ROG Swift PG49WCD would lead to either a stretched picture with obviously wrong proportions, or a cropped image where the top and bottom parts were missing. To display the entire picture in the correct aspect ratio, you have to set aspect control to 16:9, click on Full, then select 27-inch simulation. However, as you can see from the pop-up notification, this aspect control setting would disable VRR, which means there's no way to play Xbox games in HDR VRR with a non-distorted picture. Also, 4K 60Hz was not a supported resolution in 27-inch simulation mode, preventing us from running the HDRG calibration screen on the Xbox Series X console. So in the end, we had to select another aspect control setting which supports 4K 60Hz HDR, go through the HDRG calibration, settling at a max TML and max FFTML of 600 nits, before switching back to 27-inch simulation mode, just to play HDRG compliant games without VRR. It's more hassle than trying to put toothpaste back into its tube after you squeeze too much out. For watching movies from an external Blu-ray player, again you have to select 27-inch simulation to display the whole picture in the correct aspect ratio, although of course the lack of VRR won't be a problem here. Watching films from a PC, for instance on Netflix, was more straightforward with the correct presentation, as long as you set up both your PC and the monitor to display the full 5120x1440 resolution. Only the Cinema HDR picture preset adapted its tone curve to max DML or maximum display mastering luminance metadata. But as mentioned before, since Cinema HDR tracked brighter than reference, we still prefer to watch all types of HDR content including movies in the more accurate Display HDR 400 True Black preset. Exploring the picture menu, Shadow Boost was a setting we thought could be used to alleviate the darker than reference near black gamma outside sRGB mode in SDR, but it affected luminance levels higher than where we wanted to adjust, and so it's best kept off. Uniform brightness can be toggled on and off in certain SDR picture modes, but is always enabled in the most accurate sRGB mode, providing a more stable luminance across different window sizes without ABL or automatic brightness limiter kicking in. Talking of which, full screen peak white on our Asus PG49WCD review sample measured 270 nits in SDR sRGB mode, which should be bright enough for most users in all but the sunniest rooms. Although please be mindful that because there's no polarizer on QD-OLED panels, the screen would turn gray when hit by direct light, so careful positioning of the monitor is critical to prevent a significant loss of ambient contrast in a well-lit environment. Asus has implemented a comprehensive array of anti-screen burn measures on the PG49WCD, ranging from screensaver and pixel cleaning compensation cycles to pixel shifting and logo luminance adjustment to mitigate permanent OLED burn-in. There is some over-provisioning of pixels beyond the 5120x1440 resolution, such that pixel shifting will never cause edges of the picture to be cropped off, however slightly. Let's sum up. The ROG Swift PG49WCD is an impressive first QD-OLED monitor from Asus, delivering true blacks and vibrant colors courtesy of QD-OLED's pixel-level light control and wide color gamut coverage, accurate factory calibration in certain SDR and HDR picture modes, excellent screen uniformity across all luminance levels, fantastic immersion from the super ultra-wide aspect ratio in supported games, as well as clearer text rendering thanks to the improved subpixel layout on Samsung Display's second-generation QD-OLED panel, and so the monitor receives our recommended award. The most glaring weakness of the Asus PG49WCD is its 144Hz refresh rate, which falls short of the 240Hz offered by other 49-inch QD-OLED monitors. We also wish that Asus can fix the overbrightened PQ-EOTF tracking in most HDR picture presets, or update the most accurate Display HDR 400 True Black mode to reach the advertised peak brightness of 1000 nits. Regardless, having thoroughly tested the Asus PG49WCD, we now have even higher hopes for the company's more versatile PG32UCDM 32-inch 4K QD-OLED monitor with 240Hz refresh rate, and you can learn more about this monitor by watching our coverage video here.